seems a little stupid. They were too stupid to live through this situation, I'm sorry. Oh, it's so stupid. It's just stupid. It was a stupid choice. I gotta hope that this was an option and that my player was just an idiot. It's so stupid. And she does the stupid thing, and then Ellie does the stupid thing, and Ellie falls for the old bottle trick. It's really boring. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to that channel. If you're here, you know the deal, so we're gonna get right into it. We're looking at The Last of Us Game 2, and this is gonna be part 7 of my what I'm expecting to be 8-part series. We left off with Abby going back to the WLF fob, and she gets arrested because she was not supposed to leave the fob to go and try and save Owen. I'm really glad that we have Lev in the story now because I was not invested at all in Abby's story. I really don't care about this character, and I think that having Lev in the story is doing exactly what this tool in writing is supposed to do, which is being the window to a world that our main character has always been closed off to. So she's now finally being able to see it, but see it from a perspective of neutrality instead of a perspective of opposition. So my main concern going into this is, how do we save Lev? Innocence is always going to tug at the heartstrings of any audience, and the desire to protect it in itself is a likable trait. So I like that we are seeing Abby finally doing something that I could get behind and want to protect this innocence. But before we get into it, please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It is a free way to support this channel. Or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. Sorry I'm not all dolled up like usual. I'm just too tired to care. I've been working like 16-hour days just trying to catch up because these stupid hackers destroyed my computer. It's not working the same as it used to. It's really frustrating. Hackers, you suck. You ruin lives at worst, and you complicate them at best. You suck. For folks familiar with me, I've got one on board. I have another in reserve, and I'm determined to finish this game now. Let's go. We start out with Abby, who is handcuffed in an elevator, and Nora shows up and lets her go and wants to know what's going on. She knows that Abby went to the aquarium to find Owen, and Abby sort of misleads Nora into believing that Owen is the one whose elbow has been smashed, and so she needs all the medical supplies needed for treating compartment syndrome, which is what Mel said that Yara was suffering from, and that she was going to lose her arm if it goes gangrene or whatever. You get the idea. Nora says that they can get the supplies they need in the lower levels, and she is going to obviously take Abby down there. I like that Nora was kept, she seems to be very consistent in her character, even though she's very little time on screen. Here she's telling Abby, if you get caught, I had nothing to do with this. Like, I'm not involved. That's exactly what we overheard happening in the segment where Ellie was climbing through the vents and listening in on the conversations, where she's like, I don't know, I don't want to go and get involved in this. I had nothing to do with it, all that stuff. We saw that earlier when she was in the room with all the dead bodies, and she was talking about how Isaac looked at her and gave her one of those looks, and she knew she cannot tell anybody. So she's clearly doesn't agree with everything that he does and will subvert his orders or go under his orders when she feels like she has the right to do so, or that she feels that she is in the right for doing so. I like Nora. So far, Nora's a pretty good character. So Nora is leading Abby downstairs, and they come across some guards who Nora says, oh, before you go get Abby, because that's what they're on their way to do, could you please move some boxes out to the boat for me? And they're hesitant at first, but they decide to go along with it. I mean, Nora is definitely putting herself on the line here for Abby. It's pretty obvious, at least it will be, that she was involved in some way. She's on the same floor that Abby's locked on, coming through the same doorway that Abby is behind, and she's telling the guards who are on their way to go get her to please spend some more time moving boxes for her. I think it would have been a little better if they just snuck past the guards and this whole encounter didn't happen, but that's me totally nitpicking. Anyway, Nora reveals that Isaac interrogated all of the Salt Lake City crew right after Abby went AWOL, and he was really rough on Mel. But nobody betrayed Abby, or Manny, I guess, so wouldn't it be totally obvious that Abby went after Owen? I feel like that would be so completely obvious. And I guess nobody knows that Owen would go to the aquarium other than Abby and Mel. But was it a secret that Owen and Mel were making a home for themselves at the aquarium? Was that a secret? I mean, if you have two people who disappear off into the wilderness frequently and they are your soldiers, I feel like you would know where they're going. But that's just me. I'm being hypercritical again, though. Let's just keep going. So Abby brings up that Mel's been talking about going to Santa Barbara, and Nora's like, he knows that's all bullshit, right? And Abby's like, yeah. And Nora goes, man, I feel so bad for Mel. And Abby's like, yeah, me too. Of course, she must feel bad. She better feel bad. If she doesn't feel bad, then she's just a sick person. I think this is indicating that she knows she's screwed up big. Nora is so far the most likable out of all the characters. She's loyal. She's willing to go against the authority and put herself on the line for other people. And she totally recognizes that Mel has a baby coming on, and that is not a good situation to be in the middle of a war zone during the apocalypse. And here she is being abandoned by the dad of the baby. Mel should just go with Nora. Nora explains that where she's taking Abby, or where Abby needs to go to get the medicine she's looking for, is the area basically where Nora dies later on. It's a totally overgrown area. It was ground zero where the first patients were brought back in 2013 or whenever the pandemic hit. I think it was 2013. I always forget. And Nora sends her off saying, I hope to see you back at base again soon. And Abby kind of goes, yeah, and then takes off. I do sort of wish that there was a question asked here, what are you going to do when you come back? Because it's obviously going to be a difficult situation where you have Isaac furious at Abby for taking off. She obviously went to go and get Owen, so is she bringing Owen back? Everybody at this point knows, because we saw the rumors spreading as Abby was approaching, that Owen killed Danny to save a Scar. So this would be a huge issue. I don't see how Nora wouldn't have heard about this already. Obviously, if she talked to Manny, this is something that would have come up. In writing, sometimes you will exclude conversation or exclude details because if you bring it up, you're reminding the reader of something you don't want them to consider. And it's not wrong to do this if you are using that as a tool for some sort of a later revelation. For instance, if you don't want them to think about why the butler would have a motive to kill such and such Mr. Body. What you would do is you bring up other questions that would lead your audience or your reader into thinking that somebody else had a stronger motive. So you would ignore this and persuade your audience there's not even anything to look at over there. What you want to be careful about when you do this sort of thing is if you make it look like the other person is obviously not asking a question. I think that this was mostly okay on the part of Nora. It's such a small character and a small part. I mean, at least small for now. I don't know if she has a bigger role later on other than that Ellie is the one who kills her and she doesn't betray Abby. Man, she's a likable character. She's very loyal to Abby and the gang. Maybe she's not very contemplative and thinking about what are the consequences going to be of this and how will that change the scenario in the future. Whatever. Anyway, keep going. Okay, so Abby is going down into this basement, lower levels, whatever, and there's obvious evidence of violence that has recently occurred down here. She gets into an ambulance, finds a case that has, I guess, all the medical supplies that she needs, and as she's walking out, this Rat King sort of infected comes after her. It is like it's so gross looking. If you don't know what a Rat King is, it's basically when a bunch of rats have twisted themselves around each other so much in like this mush of rats, and their tails get tangled up and they can't get untangled. It's like a knot in their tails. And you just have what looks like a giant rat mass. And that is what this thing looks like, and it is disgusting. This is horrific. This is what humanity has to look forward to if they get infected. At least they're all together. So there's this big, long struggle with this thing. One of the attached infected unattaches itself and goes after her. She's really having a hard time killing it, and she's setting it on fire, at least the player in my version is. And finally, it ends up dying. And it did seem to me like the way to kill this creature is to kill the independent heads of each one of these things. I wasn't entirely clear on whether or not that's what she did. It didn't really look like it to me. It looks like she killed the main body first, and then that caused the other ones to die also. But if you have one that breaks off of the main body and it's independent, which it was, she had to kill that one separately. I think that the best way to kill this thing would be you have to kill each and every one of those heads. Like every head has to be exploded before it finally goes down. Maybe the flamethrower did its job and torched it enough that it all fell apart, so But that's disgusting. That's disgusting. I actually find something like this, though, less terrifying than a large mass of stalkers, I guess. Those are the ones that are smarter and they're stealthy and they don't just come after you in a mob. Although those would be scary too, but this to me would not be an upgrade from that. This to me would be something that would be scarier before that thing, because it's just basically a bloater that's harder to kill, and if you don't kill it soon enough, these other things come off of it. But it's still cool. I mean, it's horrific and horrifying. I wonder if they took inspiration from fungal development in nature. Like, is there a fungus that actually does cause its hosts to do this sort of thing? Okay, so she also comes across one of the ones that broke off of itself. She thought that she had killed it before, and then she comes across it again and follows it up into the ceiling and then wrestles with it there and whatever. Anyway, that's disgusting. Something just gross. I have nothing really to say on the development of this particular infected generation except that it's disgusting. She's making her way out of the hospital, and the same thing happens to her that happens to Ellie when Jesse grabbed her and was like, quiet, you know, same thing happens, except this time it's Lev. And Lev warns her, they are looking for you like crazy. I couldn't stay in the same spot because they would have found me. Obviously, they know that Abby has escaped at this point. So my question is, how did Lev know to go to this spot? It's a little convenient. I usually am okay with this happening maybe once or twice ever in a story. I think we've had a couple of things like this happen, but whatever. It's a small thing. Let's just keep going. There's a boat nearby, so they commandeer the boat and they go off to the aquarium, and the next scene is the two of them waiting outside of the double doors where obviously the surgery is happening on the other side of the room. So this is where all of the bloody medical supplies was. Like when we got in the show and saw all of this, and Ellie was freaking out about it. It was really bizarre. I did watch that scene in the game, and it was definitely less of a freaking out and more like a, whoa, what the hell happened here? Recognizing that something must have happened, but not portraying it as horror, more just recognizing that something big medical thing happened here recently, and so this is what it was. It would have been crazy if she found an arm. That would have been good. Then she could have been like, these people are animals. Or maybe she would have just concluded that somebody had to have their arm amputated. Anyway, let's keep going. There's a nice little scene where Alice the dog shows up, and Lev is obviously a little wary, but Abby makes the dog sit and says, you know, you can go ahead and pet her, and so you get to see Lev petting the dog. This is a lot like how we had in game 1 with Joel taking the time to give a little love to that one dog. I forget what its name was, but it was the dog that was at the place where he first met up with Maria and Tommy, and there was the water wheel things. Anyway, not water wheel, hydroelectric plant, whatever, that thing. And then Owen comes out, says the surgery is successful, so Lev goes in to see Yara. Now that it's Owen and Abby alone, Abby comments, they're just kids, and Owen goes, yeah, I know, and she says, whatever happened to us? And he says, maybe we stopped looking for the light. I like that it seems that this is the first time that these characters are face to face with innocence, where it becomes very obvious you are on the wrong path. You are caught in the darkness, so to speak. And then you have these two very innocent characters who just want to live, just want to survive. And they are also children. And it stands out to them that this is a stark objective good, that there is innocence worth preserving here, and that this is something that is a light in the darkness. That's basically all there is to the conversation, and then Abby says, I'm gonna go check on the girl. She goes and looks at Yara and Lev, and Yara's doing okay, but obviously her arm is totally amputated from about the elbow down, and then we cut there. This is actually a pretty good transition from a character who's unable to see that she's doing anything wrong to being exposed to an objective good, and then slowly starting to say, not I'm wrong, but there is something wrong with me, and facing that truth. Sort of like in AA, the first step to your recovery is to know that you have a problem and be willing to admit that you have a problem. We've got Abby in AA at this point. She's taken that first step. Oh, then we get a very brief dream, and this actually does follow a pretty good dream sequence progression. So it's the same one where she's walking through the hall, she goes into the surgery room where she usually re-experiences her dad's death. Well, actually, okay, I've only seen 3 instances of this. The first time was when she woke up on the couch, when Manny woke her up. We saw that she was dreaming about finding her dad's dead body, and Owen, and I can't remember which other person it was. It was either Owen, or not Owen, Manny or Jordan, one of them. Anyway, she's just experiencing him being dead and that rage that happened in that moment. Rage and sorrow. That was the first time. The second time, it was, we thought, going to be the same dream, but it turns out it was the two kids hanging from the ceiling. I thought that it was Abby and Lev. It was really hard to tell because their faces did not look the same as they do in the game. But they did a good job with showing that in death, you physically change. Because there is literally no muscle tension in the body at all, even subconscious muscle tension or activation, you don't look the same when you are dead as you do when you are alive. If you've done any research on like decapitations, people's faces do not look anything like they used to before. I know this may seem like a totally bizarre concept to people, but when you are researching for storytelling and you want to show accuracy, there are things that you look up that you never would look up in any other normal situation. And one of those things for me was decapitation. So I was looking for, what does a person look like, or what does a decapitated head look like? It looks absolutely nothing like they do in life. You might not even recognize that person just by looking at their head, because all of the tension of the neck and the flesh being pulled down no longer exists. It's all coming up. There's also no muscle tension. So people don't look the same after they are dead, and if you decapitate them, their face really doesn't look the same. Why'd we get sidetracked like that? Let's not carry this further into my research into decomposing bodies and how they appear at various stages in different conditions. Oh, but yeah, so it's 3 different dreams. So the second one was finding the 2 kids, and the third one is her opening up the door and her dad is alive and smiling. I think this is supposed to be showing that she has found the light, like she has finally found that goodness in the world. It's sort of like the beginning of a redemption for her soul. So this does work as a pattern to show that she has found maybe what has been missing or something that will lead her to a better life. I don't know how realistic it is to say that somebody can get over something that has psychosomatic complications, that it can be gotten over without psychosomatic interventions. What I'm hoping is that we don't see that from this point forward, Abby is 100% a different person, because that is not a realistic thing to happen. When you have psychosomatic ailments, it takes psychosomatic intervention in order to change it. So she may have had the introduction of these new characters, and now she's got this desire to protect innocence and reconnecting with positivity, but that doesn't mean that the darkness is gone. You literally are conditioned to be stuck and adapted into a specific situation. And so you have to undergo a process of reconditioning yourself into something new. And this is a gradual process. It does not flip right away. So that's what I'm hoping we'll get in this. A good example of this would be how you treat PTSD. There is no single treatment that has been like, this is 100% the way to deal with it. But in almost all cases, it takes not only cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the process of thoughts resulting in emotions, resulting in behavior and choices, and then those reinforcing these things. You have to sort of reprogram that, which starts out with how you think, because that is the only thing that you can really take control of right away, and it'll have this sort of ripple effect. But also physical reconditioning, because your body has been physically altered by this. Literally, the chemistry of your brain is changed. Your reflexes are changed. The way that you react to certain things in the world, these triggers, is changed. And so you need to recondition those things as well. And that does require a literal physical reconditioning. And we've not really nailed down how to do that particular thing. Anyway, we got to get past this. It's always interesting to me, though, the process of altering your body through thought and altering your thought through your body. This is such a fascinating subject for me. So it's easy for me to slip into that kind of like, oh, let's talk about this for a while. Ooh, okay, this next bit is good. We get a conversation with Mel. Abby wakes up the next day and you can hear that the kids are arguing in another room, and she comes across Mel and starts off pretty normal, like, wow, great job with the surgery. Well, not exactly that, but she wants to know what the kids are arguing about. And Mel says, well, Lev doesn't want to leave Seattle. Owen invited them to go to Santa Barbara with him. And Abby goes, wow, that sounds just like Owen. I figured you would have talked Owen out of going by now. And Mel goes, actually, I'm going with them, but not if you go. I'm so glad that this is happening. She goes on to say, he may fall for your little act with these kids, but I don't. And Abby goes, there's nothing to fall for. And Mel's like, oh yeah, you're Isaac's top scar killer. You suddenly have a change in heart. But Mel moves the conversation on pretty quickly. She goes, has nothing to do with Owen, right? And Mel goes, you're a piece of shit, Abby. You always have been. And I like that Abby actually nods, like, yes, I am. So she does seem to recognize that sleeping with Owen was objectively a shitty, horrible thing to do. I think this is a pretty strong indication that Mel absolutely knows that Abby slept with Owen. I wish that they would state that it was clear, but this conversation really only makes perfect sense if it's something that Mel has figured out, at least at this point. Up until now, she has been odd with Abby to some degree. I mean, she hasn't really seemed like the odd one. Abby has really seemed like the odd one. Like if you look back at some of their conversations, at least the ones that I saw, it was pretty obvious that Mel was more like frustrated that Owen is gone, and she's like, you're his friend, how come, has he mentioned anything to you? And Abby seemed to be the one who was reluctant to speak to her. Even when Abby brought it up when they were at the greenhouse, she says, why have you been avoiding talking to me? Mel comes out and says, it's more about, I'm just uncomfortable with what we did in Jackson. It had nothing to do with Abby at that point. But here, it's very blatantly, this is about you and Owen, obviously not having an honest relationship when it comes to me, Mel. An honest relationship would have been they respect the fact that they are in a relationship, Mel and Owen. This also does reflect a little bit the conversation that we had. It was where basically Owen called her a piece of shit, except he was saying, oh, what should I do what you did? Should I go and get revenge also? And in that case, Abby flipped out. She didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong that she had done. So at least she recognizes that she's a piece of shit for doing that. That's good. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Mel says, if you really care about those kids, then you're gonna get out of their lives before you destroy them too. And she says, I'm done with you, packs up her bag and takes off. And then Abby flips out and kicks a chair. The one thing that I can say about Abby in this situation, other than the fact that, oh good, you are recognizing that you did a shitty thing. When Mel sets that condition, I'm gonna go with Owen to Santa Barbara, but not if you come with us. It seems that Abby is going, okay, I can't go with them to Santa Barbara because it's better for Mel and the baby to be going to a place that is away from this war zone. I mean, except that aren't the Fireflies kind of warmongers as well? Wasn't that the whole point of all of the flashbacks we had where we saw Ellie seeing all the horrible things that the Fireflies made the Fireflies do, all the killing and torturing and slaughtering of other people? So what, you're gonna take Mel and the baby out of this situation and bring them over to basically in the same kind of situation elsewhere? This does kind of reflect the same situation that we had with Ellie and Dina, that part where Ellie abandoned Tommy, which was also abandoning Dina and the baby, because if she is going to go and pursue revenge instead of going to rescue Tommy, which that's the whole reason she said she's going out, like, I'm going to go and rescue Tommy so we can come back and get Dina off to Jackson, which is what's best for the baby. Well, best for Dina and the baby. This is a situation where we are seeing what should have been going on in Ellie's mind at that moment, the realization that if I do what I want, it's not good for the baby. And I think it's good that they're doing this here. This is actually Abby's, maybe it's her moment of big conflict. Like if she tries to go with them to Santa Barbara, then she really will be a piece of shit. But if she stays, then all right, she's doing the right thing. We're seeing the influence of recognizing the importance of innocence and the preservation of innocence. If that's your role, is to help preserve innocence and give children a chance at life, then that is the highest good. And if you can pursue that, even at the cost of your own wants, you are doing the right thing. And then Yara walks in on Abby's tantrum. Well, it's not a tantrum, her frustration. But she looks pretty darn good for having her army amputated. She must be drugged out of her mind right now.
I've had worse.
Anyway, Abby doesn't want to talk about what's going on, but she's asking, hey, did Lev come around? And Yara's like, no, but he ran off. Can you help me look for him? So Abby's going to help look for him. Okay, so they're walking off, and Abby's asking about why doesn't Lev want to leave Seattle, and we get the revelation that their mother is at risk. So the Seraphites will sometimes punish the family members of people who have done something wrong. And in this case, it would be the mother, seeing her as, I guess, responsible for the way that her children turned out. Yara seems to think that the mom's going to be just fine because she's so devout, so nobody's going to look at what her kids did and see her as being responsible, or the good that she has done will have outweighed the bad that her kids have done. Either way, this is not a good culture to be part of if you can be punished for somebody else's sins. Then there's a very interesting line that Abby says. So Yara's commenting on how Lev said, "You're really brave," and Abby's like, "That's a lie." Yara says that she wants to thank Abby for what she did, which she does owe her a thank you, but Abby says, "Don't thank me, I did it for me." Like, she didn't do this for them, she did it for herself, which is very self-aware. We're starting to see that Abby is doing a little bit of self-reflection here from the outside, and seeing what she has been doing is she's basically a selfishly motivated person, that she went for Owen, disregarding his responsibility for the child, and she went for the kids because she had a nightmare about them dying, and it made her feel bad, and she's going after them, and now maybe I don't know if she's actually recognizing the positive influence that they are, but she is maybe starting to see that she is a self-interest motivated person. And that is, again, part of the beginning of making a transformation, spiritually, psychologically, beginning that process. There's a moment where they play with the dog, and you can see that Yara's really wary at first, but Abby kind of, "No, it's okay, you can play fetch with her," and they play it for a while. This would be one of those scenes that I feel like they have to cut it out or move it in the show if they're gonna do this as a show, because as taking away from the urgency of finding Lev. I mean, is it really that important to find Lev if you're just gonna stop and play fetch with the dog for a while? I don't know if this moment is supposed to serve Abby from Yara's perspective specifically or Lev's. I would almost think that the best place to put this would be while Yara is having surgery, instead of having that moment where Abby is sitting next to Lev waiting, for the surgery to be going on, and then the dog comes up and they pet it. Have this whole fetch thing happen here, or just don't have it at all, because you've already had kind of that moment where Lev connected with the dog and Abby was the one who instigated, hey, look, it's okay to like a dog, just like how the whole petting the giraffe thing happened in game 1. It's like her realizing she can be part of these two people having a second chance at life, at having enjoyment and good positive growth moments. For instance, appreciating beauty, appreciating animals and the connection that animals have with people that is very positive. And again, I think back to Joel petting the dog at the Jackson power plant thing. Okay, I have to go back and watch some scenes again. So apparently Lev is transgender, and that's against the rules in the Scar, whatever. I've got to watch some scenes over again. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me, it might bring in some money from all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. I've got links in the description. Or you can hit the money heart thanks button down below. Now let's get back to it. Okay, there's some things that are coming to light in my addressing this issue, which is obviously, it seemed like Abby was not surprised at all that Lev is transgender. And I was like, where was that revealed? And figured it was just a cut scene. So I went back and I'm watching the uncut version. And I've watched all the scenes with Abby and Lev, because that's where I would assume it would come out. And so there's a few things that were completely cut from the version that I saw, and I'm like, okay, obviously I missed it because it was cut out. But there's also stuff that just wasn't in the version that the player I'm watching would have experienced. So, okay, the first time that Lev is referred to as he, because I started out thinking that Lev was just a girl, bow and arrow girl, until we got to the part where Abby was saying they want to kill a little boy because he shaved his head. And I was like, what? Lev is a boy? So I figured it's what they do in anime a lot, which is voice a boy with a woman, and that was why I was confused at first. But actually what happened is there was a line that was cut out in the version that I was watching, so it was when Abby had just left the aquarium and she's on her way to go and save Lev and Yara, because it's the next day after she banged Owen. And there's a moment when she says, "I hope he is okay." And if I had seen that, that certainly would have stood out to me as like, what the hell does that mean? And then I would have tried to figure out what it was, and then I would have most likely figured out, oh, okay, Lev is a boy. And it was just that scenario where I figured it was a girl because that's what they do in anime a lot. But then we get to another scene where Lev's gender is brought up. And in the version I saw, it's where we have Lev and Abby are on their way up to the bridges and they encounter some other scars. And the scars say it's Lily. And I thought that they were referring to Abby. And I was like, why did I think they were referring to Abby if it was actually Lev? I watched the scene again, and it's because the second half of that line, it's Lily, and then the next one is something like, you shouldn't have left Lily. That line is said by a guy who's attacking Abby as he's attacking Abby. So Abby's attacking a guy, and the guy's looking at her and says, you shouldn't have left Lily. And that is clearly why I thought that they thought that Abby was Lily. I didn't even remember what the exact circumstances of that were until watching it the second time. And then the follow-up conversation never happened. But now watching the uncut version, it's a completely different gameplay. That line, you shouldn't have left Lily, was shouted to Lev. So I would have totally picked up on that is a line going to Lev. But if I was playing the version that, in the cut version, the person who's playing, I still would have been confused at that moment going, why do they think Abby is Lily? And for a second, I thought, when I first watched that scene, there was a moment where I thought that Yara was Lily, and it didn't click until much later when they were calling Yara Lily, or Yara, that I was like, oh, okay, that's not Lily, and I figured there's another person out there named Lily. This is a big problem, though, where the gameplay is different for every person who plays. So things like this would cause a total misunderstanding of who is being called Lily. Like, this is not unreasonable for a person to assume they're saying Abby is Lily, because the guy's looking right at her, attacking her, and saying you shouldn't have left Lily. So that's a flaw, I think, in how the lines are delivered in the gameplay. Like, it isn't indicated that it has to be delivered before that character attacks Abby. Otherwise, it's going to look like he's calling Abby Lily. But the follow-up conversation would have cleared it up for sure, and that was just cut from the cut version that I'm watching. And that is where Lev actually says to Abby, did you hear what they called me back there? I think at that point I would have been like, oh, okay. Lev is Lily. Lev is transgender. I get it. All the pieces would have come together in that moment. Is Abby transgender? Hang on a second. Okay, for a second there, I thought that maybe Abby is transgender. So I went and I looked at, well, first of all, I looked at the bang-in scene and I was like, well, she did turn around, and I highly doubt that they have like medical transition during this apocalypse. So that would make sense. But I went and I watched the earlier flashback scenes where we had Abby with her dad and then Abby with Owen on the Ferris wheel thing. And she's definitely got boobs. And again, I don't think that they have medical transition here. So I don't know. Unless she's intersex, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Probably not. Everybody refers to her as she, but that doesn't tell you if somebody's transgender or not. So I have no clue. It doesn't really matter anyway. But the thing that this really points out to me is that there are definite issues with this game having options and things that may happen for one player but not for another player. It does create varied experiences and varied stories. So depending on what information is required for every player to experience, you may have a story that has a different meaning or a different theme for every single person who plays. That's a big issue unless it's actually the theme of the story, is that everybody can have a different experience. And so that is what you're supposed to be picking up from this, is that one person can experience a total, but then that's just weird. That's just like, okay, so every person has a different experience. That's literally life. And if you haven't figured out that most people don't live identical lives, I don't know. It's a little odd. But it is an issue when you have all these arguments that are happening over this game. And what does it mean? Does it have holes? Does it not have holes? Well, I think the answer is, for some people, it does have holes. Because it's not a story that is set in stone where these are specific issues that have to be brought up in the story. So if you've got things that are key moments, especially, that might not happen for other people, that could be a big issue. Like, I wonder if you could go through this game without killing people at all. Because if you could, then that kind of takes away from, like, in game 1, it would take away from, is Joel a vicious person? Because he wouldn't be if he hasn't killed anybody. That's interesting. But I mean, okay, now you could sit there and ponder this forever, but the real matter that I'm trying to address here is that the story is going to be different for every single person who plays, with the exception of the parts that are, I guess, required. So if there are parts that are required, if there's required events that, like, you cannot get to the end of the game without experiencing certain things, those things I think are canon, or should be regarded as canon, and everything else is up in the air. It either did happen or didn't happen. So if you have a theory of this is how the game is what is supposed to be happening, what is supposed to be in the heads of a character or whatever, I'm thinking specifically of the journal. I had a lot of folks in the comments telling me that we know Ellie is lying when she says she wants to go tell Tommy or rescue Tommy because of a journal entry. And I was like, well, do you have to open the journal and see this, or is this optional? Because I did not see that in the version I was watching, and I figured maybe it's in somebody else's gameplay, or maybe it got cut out. And it turns out, no, it's totally optional. You don't have to read that journal entry. So it's not required to know that Ellie wrote this particular journal entry. And then I did go and look at the journal entry, and it still didn't say that Ellie was going to lie or prove that Ellie was lying, because it all happened before Nora, which is a big issue. Like, when an event happens also is important to whether or not you can say, oh, this is valid at a later point in the story. And because that happened before the whole Nora incident, and it wasn't even saying that she's going to lie, it's literally just saying, I don't want to hear about leaving or anything like that. And then she has this experience with Nora, and I don't know, either way, that's a entirely different issue, and I do want to give that its own video. But I think this does highlight a major problem with anybody who wants to claim that this story is meaning something specific, especially if the specificity of that meaning is entirely dependent on things that are optional. So it's almost like the fighting is completely pointless. So arguing over what something means that is open to interpretation to everybody and is entirely dependent on what their experience is, and their experience may be different from everybody else's, that's kind of silly. This is one of those situations where if I was put in the phase of editing for this story, I would have brought this up and said, make sure everything that you want to be canon, whatever your intentions are as the writer, if you want that intention to be something that can be solidly defended, then nothing that supports that or that proves that can be optional. It has to be set in stone as a required experience for everyone who plays the game. And that's it. Unless the whole point was to get people arguing about what the game means, which is entirely possible. I'm 100% certain that there are a lot of movies and shows and just works of art in general that are made to provoke argument, and that is the point, is that I want people to argue, which, I mean, some people like that stuff. I actually think it's kind of silly if your purpose is just to cause argument. But if it's to cause discussion, that's a different thing. I think it's unfortunate and really seems to be something that a lot of artists don't take into account, that you're not exactly causing discussion, you're causing argument. I don't know, my experience with artists who enjoy doing this or who really take pride in doing this do seem to have glee when it comes to causing argument. Like, they want to see elevations of rage and hate, and like that's something that they enjoy seeing. But the world is a colorful place, so I'm sure that there's also artists who cause arguments like this, and the purpose is hopefully they will get to a place of understanding and peace, but usually that means that you've created an answer that everybody should come to in the end, or at least something in the theme about they should not be doing this. So anyway, that was a long sidetrack, my gosh, let's keep going. So something I also noticed in my rewatch of some of those scenes was that Lev said, I can get you to the hospital in 2 hours. And then Abby asks Mel, is 2 hours enough? Can Yara live for 2 hours? And Mel goes, yeah, but it isn't 2 hours. it's 2 hours to get there, and then assumingly 2 hours to get back, right? So that's 4 hours. I would have fixed that, but that's total nitpick. It's small. I'm assuming that they're just talking about hours at this point. Can Yara survive hours, or does she have possibly a day? But before we keep going though, so I looking at the uncut version, there was a lot of stuff in there that was not essential to the story as it's playing out, that when I go and look at the cut version, that is what was cut out. Obviously, this is a moment that would have been good to have. Again, I don't know if it was a required conversation, and I'm talking specifically about Lev saying, "Did you hear what they called me?" That bit. Like, was that optional? I mean, you guys tell me in the comments, I don't know. But all the stuff like killing a bunch of zombies and climbing up a bunch of ladders or exploring a bunch of houses and things like that is not essential to the story. It is space in between. And I think it's essential to gameplay because that's stuff that people in games like to do. That is literally the game, where you're not getting narrative or dialogue or story. You're actually participating in exploring the world or killing the zombies, which is, I think, one of the biggest parts of the game. But yeah, apart from this one moment, I haven't seen anything so far that was super essential to the story. Even this moment here, all it did was reveal that Lev is transgender earlier in the story, but not a whole lot earlier, really. And then that information was not essential for me as a consumer of a story, not a game, but as a consumer of a story, actually not of a game either, wasn't essential for me until we get the other parts of the conversation with Yara, where Yara is explaining this is literally the reason why we were kicked out of the scars, and it's very personal to our conflict and with our mother. It wasn't just about cutting hair, it was a much deeper issue. So if I was going to say, when do you reveal that Lev is transgender, that would be the moment where you have Yara talking to Abby in the aquarium, giving the information about why. I mean, it's really about why does Lev want to stay? Lev wants to stay because their mom could be in danger. So that is the moment when you need to know this information, and you could cut out everything else and have the reveal here, and it wouldn't affect the storytelling, I don't think. Unless somebody can cite a reason why you need to know that Lev is transgender before this moment. So this was recommended to me by people who love not Game of Thrones, love The Last of Us Game 2 and wanted me to see a version that has all the time-wasting stuff cut out, but none of the important stuff. But yeah, about a third of the uncut version seems to be what is not essential to the storytelling. Because here I am in the uncut version. I'm at the same point with Yara and Abby talking, and in the uncut version, there's about 3 hours left. And in the cut version, there's about 2 hours left. So that follows that the things that are being cut out seem to be not essential to the main story. Anyway, so Yara explains to Abby that this is what the major conflict was, and this is why they eventually left. And Yara definitely regrets that she wasn't fully supportive of Lev at first. And so Abby goes, I have an idea. Why don't we do something to cheer Lev up? And they go off and they're looking for something to give to Lev. Oh, there's even more to it. This is further, I think, solidifying that the Lev being transgender does not need to be revealed until literally this moment here, and it's fine. So one of the big reasons, the actual big reasons, because so Abby's like, why did Lev shave his head? And Yara says, well, in our culture, you are assigned your role. And Lev wanted to be a warrior like me, but instead was assigned to become the wife of one of the elders. So they do child marriage here too. It's time to get away from this place. It's interesting that Yara is willing to leave everything familiar behind, even though she was basically fine with her situation in the community. But when Lev's position was threatened, when Lev was threatened, she's like, we got to get out of here. And now Lev is the one who wants to stay. I'm seeing a continued pattern here again, where it's what do you do when it's a child whose future or happiness or ability to thrive is threatened, and what is the protector's role? And Yara's actually doing it. Yara's like, I'm going to sacrifice my comfort and everything, all this for Lev's sake. But of course, Lev is not on board with this unless they're going to take their mom too. But she's not on board with it, so. Yeah, so I watched this scene in the cut version and then the uncut version. And yeah, the only thing that was cut out in the cut version was, in this case, the majority of the time was spent just walking around this gift shop looking for something and then finding a stuffed animal shark, which immediately made me start singing in my head, baby shark, doo 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 doo. My niece she loves that song, but thankfully she doesn't know about it enough that she sings it all the time. Like, she's more into Ghibli films. Thank the Lord, Ghibli films is what she was exposed to before any of that stuff. Oh yeah, so then Yara says to Abby, you know, Mel is wrong about you, you're a good person. And Abby says, you don't know me. And Yara says, I know you enough. And I feel like this is, again, looking at the whole theme, like, oh, if you just know more about a person, you will think differently about them than you do if you know just a little bit, which is, yeah. I'm not mocking this as a theme. It's just another like, and here it is again. I think most people recognize that already as a truth, that if you know a little bit about a person, that's not the same as knowing all about a person. It's like with the dog. Like, when the dog attacked Ellie, I did not assume that this dog was a vicious monster its whole life, that was all this dog was. I basically assumed this is a cute, cuddly, fun little, playful, loving dog, and that in this moment it was viciously attacking Ellie and she had to kill it. Owen comes in and we get an interesting conversation. After he says, Lev went that way, and Yara leaves, he's asking Abby, you're coming with us to Santa Barbara, right? And she's like, no, I can't. And he's going, why? And she goes, you know why. And he says, I know it's a screwed up situation, but you know, we can make it work. Like, I'm sure he's indicating that he thinks that they can fix it all and it'll be fine. We can just go. But Abby is convinced, no, it's too late. He follows this up saying, we can choose to be happy. We're allowed to be happy. And I think it's funny that he says this, because it would be, okay, so we can choose to be happy and then we'll be fine. But the thing is that him getting what he wants would mean that Mel is not happy then. And if she chooses to go with them, which is what would be best for the child, then she's not going to be happy going over there. But if she stays here and they leave, then what they choose is going to cause her unhappiness. This is very selfish thinking, or at least a lack of empathy. I mean, to not be able to see this situation from Mel's perspective, like, okay, I'm going to bring Abby with us to Santa Barbara. What does he think's going to happen? I'm going to break up with Mel on our way to Santa Barbara. And I'll still be a dad to the kid, which he has shown zero interest in. So why would she go with them? Oh my gosh. Like, what is he suggesting? He's suggesting you and I can be happy. And he's not taking Mel into consideration at all. It's just, sorry, Owen, but you are not looking good. I'm glad, though, that Abby seems to have a conscience here. Like, she's also exhibiting some hopelessness, that she thinks it's too late for herself to change. But the very fact that she's choosing, I'm not going to go with you because that's what is best for Mel and the baby. And obviously banging Owen didn't do it for her. So for her to go off with them, it's not going to do anything for her. It's all just a little funny. But no matter what, Owen basically is only thinking about himself here. Okay, wait. So, all right. Suddenly, it's like, oh my gosh, Lev, come back. And Owen and Abby run over and they see that Lev has taken a boat and is heading off to the island. Yara's going, oh no, he's gonna go to, after mom. And obviously the mom is gonna try and kill Lev, but Abby's going, okay, is the boat ready to go? Maybe we can take it to the island and go get Lev, but it's nowhere near ready. And so she's like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and steal a boat from the marina and take off. What made me laugh was Mel pointing out the obvious, which is, hello, Yara just had surgery. She didn't just have surgery, she had a limb amputated. The only way she could be walking around like this is if she was heavily, heavily, heavily medicated so that she's not in pain, which would most likely indicate she feels high as hell right now. But Yara's like, oh no, I'm fine, I can go.
Come on, you pansy.
Owen then goes, I'm gonna go with you. And Mel's like, what the hell? Why? And he's like, they're going to the island. She's like, yeah, duh. Owen, you have a baby to think about here. You gotta stop thinking with your Yeah, this is Abby's best moment so far. She basically calls Owen out, like, you are staying here, you're gonna get the sailboat ready, and then she says, set your priorities straight. Dude, Owen is totally abandoning his kid here. And Abby was right there, set your priorities straight. You should be taking care of the baby. Like, okay, so all of this high and mighty, I don't want to be fighting the Scars anymore, but he does want to go and join the Fireflies, who he also admitted are just as vicious as the Scars. See, he's really not as enlightened as he seems to think he is. And at this point, Abby is officially at the point where I'm going, okay, she's made her first selfless decision, where definitely she wanted Owen to go with her. But she's saying, no, you need to stay and take care of the boat. Set your priorities straight. I'm still wondering, how the hell did Mel get out there so fast? I mean, she's been shot in the back, she's pregnant, which would already debilitate you a lot. Like, even just doing normal walking around the house, getting yourself a glass of water is exhausting at this stage of pregnancy. She fought a bunch of Scars, took a big long trip which involved a lot of hiking and scrambling over things, and I noticed that in my video where I showed her climbing stuff, I didn't mention one of the things that, I definitely mentioned it, but it just didn't make it into the cut. There's a point where she climbs up onto something. And that would have involved a lot of abdomen muscle usage, which you do not have when you are pregnant. But okay. I mean, it just seems like whoever made this seems to think that pregnant women are just as physically capable as non-pregnant women, which is completely untrue. You literally physically cannot do certain things because your muscles are completely obstructed from use. But yeah, so she's got all of her energy is maybe at 50% of what it normally would be, but she's been through all of this stuff. Like, she should be sleeping right now. She should be taking a nap. And then she didn't sleep. She stayed awake all night. Oh my gosh. But yeah, how did she get to the frickin' aquarium? Did she sneak out past Isaac? Like, that's what Abby had to do. The only way I could see this working would be like if she stole a vehicle. And even then, how did she get the vehicle out of the compound? Like, oh, it's so stupid. I just can't believe some of the stuff that Yara is doing. So she's like climbing over a balcony, jumping down to a stairwell, and she's like, oh, I can do it. She looks like she's like, oh, it's a little harder, but she could only be doing this if she was drugged out of her mind, and then I don't think she would be physically capable of doing this kind of stuff.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
But whatever, okay, I'm just gonna pretend like she had her arm amputated like a week ago. That would be more believable at this point. I guess it actually works in gameplay universe because I've definitely seen Abby, and before I saw Joel getting shot and bit and stuff, and then they seem to be fine afterwards. So it works in this universe that you're healed super fast. You can be pregnant and it doesn't affect you. You can have your arm amputated and you're fine.
Just a flesh wound.
They're headed off towards the marina, and Abby is going, does Lev know what's coming? Like, their mom's not going to change their mind. Just some conversation like that. It's basically just an exploration of what the situation is, which is, this is what you do in storytelling, where you kind of ask the questions that should come up, Is Lev's mom going to change her mind and come out with them? And Yara's basically saying that ain't happening. And the only reason that Lev is going after her is total denial that that's what's going to happen. Denial built on a foundation of love. How could a mother possibly reject their own child? But you have to be pretty brainwashed to want to kill your own child. That literally goes against human nature, which is to sacrifice yourself for your child. Ugh, okay, so Abby and Yara part ways because you can hear gunshots, and so Abby's like, I'm not gonna take care of this kid going through a freaking war zone. She's like not got an arm and she's struggling to climb over things. So she climbs up to this street level area, and who's there? It's Manny, and he's being shot at by a sniper who we know is Tommy, because that is what Tommy was doing at around this time in the story. He was pinning down some of the WLFs. Oh my gosh, I want to see Jesse come and save the day. This is going to be awesome. I'm sorry, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see Tommy and Jesse again. Okay, this is freaking awesome. I am loving this. So I love seeing other people's perspectives of somebody who you know is supposed to be really competent, and then like you're seeing that competence at play against your good guys. This is great. So Manny explains that he was supposed to come here and like get the boats because they're going to go attack the island, but then this sniper showed up and Abby's like, I need one of those boats. And he goes, why? She's like, don't ask me. And he goes, okay, then I guess you're going to help me take out this sniper. So now they're going to go and try and take out this sniper, but this guy is really good. I'm loving this. This is so good. It's almost like, okay, so you're watching the Empire and all the stormtroopers and they always miss and they're totally incompetent. They're just a bunch of pawns. But then when one comes along and they're really talented and like they actually are scary, like that's how this feels. So I'm enjoying this. This is good. But it's also funny because I'm totally rooting for Tommy. Like I want him to continue to be badass. Like this is good. And we know he gets out of this, so he probably kills Manny. That's my guess is he kills Manny in this. Or Jesse does, which would also be fine. I like that they're speculating on who this guy is or who these guys are because there's trespassers, plural. Manny says, they took out my whole team and they're hitting us so hard. And she goes, why? And he goes, don't know. Like, that's definitely there for the benefit of the audience. I think, yeah. But anyway, it's still fun. I'm really enjoying this. This is good. I do kind of have to wonder about the tactical decision-making of Abby and Manny here. So she goes, I'm moving up, and she's moving towards the sniper, and Manny is too. And at least at one point she goes, what the hell was I thinking? Yeah, what the hell were you thinking? Have you not been in this kind of situation before? You don't go towards a sniper. I wonder if this was optional. Like the game player definitely should have not gone right towards the sniper, should have gone around or should have sent somebody to flank. Like you provide fire as a distraction while somebody else goes around. Like that's how you handle this situation. At one point, Abby pulls this cart of what looks like tanks of some kind. Like they look like propane tanks. And she's like, we can use this as cover. And they're just like gonna wheel it over and they're gonna hide behind it while they go. This is a bit ridiculous on their part. Like the fact that they have gotten through this far is ridiculous. I hope that this is just optional gameplay and that this person happened to be super lucky that those weren't propane tanks. They didn't go off in an explosion. I mean, the cart fell apart anyway, which is fine. That's if not an explosion of propane tanks or whatever, that's probably what should happen. But I'm hoping that this was optional and that a smarter player would have known, let's not go directly towards the sniper. Let's like go off to the side. There's no alternative route to this location. I don't know. They're both commenting on like, dang, these guys are really good. And Manny says, yeah, we should be going after them instead of the stupid island. And Abby's like, yeah, why the hell is that still on? And I'm going, yeah, why is that still on? You literally have unknown trespassers who are wreaking havoc, taking out whole teams. They are the bigger threat at the moment. Seems a little stupid. I mean, what's the plan? We're going to go to the island, wipe out the Seraphites, and then when we come back, we're going to find all our guys that were here dead. You don't abandon the fort while it's under siege in order to take care of an enemy that is not the priority in that moment. There needs to be an overthrow of Isaac, and I'm actually kind of surprised that there isn't already, especially when we saw how Nora felt about Isaac and saw all those dead bodies and that this was being kept secret and that he's keeping secrets from people. Do not go with that, along with that for very long. They typically go, no, I don't think so. At this point, this would be the tipping point. You would overthrow somebody like this. And I love it that we're seeing Tommy utilizing some of the techniques he was showing Ellie in that flashback, where you shoot at a thing to make a lot of noise and then it'll draw the infected to that thing. And he's doing that here. He's shooting at cars and whatnot, and it's drawing infected to where Abby and Manny are. I almost called Abby, Ellie, whatever. Anyway, the one we're following now. Okay, there's a bunch of zombie killing, and at one point, I kind of lose my investment in this scenario because it's starting to feel contrived. You've got Abby and Manny get up to that bridge area where obviously Tommy was shooting from when he was up there shooting down at them on the street. And it's like the perfect setup. Abby and Manny have to force their way through this push open door like this to get out. Why didn't Tommy just stand there and shoot at the door when they were coming through? And then they're on this bridge and they're hiding behind things, and Tommy's not on the bridge anymore. He's taken cover further back and he's shooting at them. But there are way too many opportunities where they would have been shot as they were running from one cover to another cover, it seems like they're getting through this conveniently at this point. They should be dead. They should be dead here. Tommy's been too good of a shot before this from way further away. A shot here would have been super easy. I was really loving this scene. Tommy keeps backing further and further into this building, and at one point he goes behind a garage door, which he obviously closes. I didn't see it when it first happened, but I heard it when I watched it a second time. So anyway, Abby wants to just open the garage. Thank goodness Manny was there, because he goes, no, he'll be waiting for us. Yeah, that's what he should have been doing with those sliding doors earlier, but whatever. They decide they're gonna go around to another exit, which you would assume that's what Tommy is doing in there. He's looking for the other way out, which means he would find this door as well. And if they open the garage, he would hear them open that, so he would know that they're coming through there. The best thing would have been to have had one person go one way and one person stay the other way, and then coordinate your attack so that it happens at the same time. So Tommy is looking to one when the other comes in and gets him on the other side, but okay. I'm amazed that they lived this long and that they get to this situation and this is the choice that they make. I mean, at least they didn't go into the garage. Oh, but yeah, Manny brings up that if you bring in this guy, you'll be golden with Isaac again. Like, this is your ticket out of the situation, but we already know that Abby's not interested in that, really. Or maybe she is. Maybe she's gonna rescue the kids and then she's gonna send them off to Santa Barbara and be like, well, I guess I'll just stay here. Okay, no, I'm glad that it ended this way. They're making a shit ton of noise trying to push their way through these two doors. Like, he wouldn't have heard them coming through and been ready on the other side. No, he obviously heard them going through that door and comes around and gets them on the other side. Like, Manny's dead. He's shot in exactly the same way that Jesse will get shot. Oh, I thought Jesse was gonna show up here. Maybe he shows up later. But anyway, I'm glad Manny died because they were too stupid to live through this situation. I'm sorry. This is freaking bizarre. So Abby busts through the double door and pushes this, what looks like a deep freezer right in front of it so nobody can get through there. And she's sitting there recovering and she's in shock. She's covered in Manny's blood and she hears that garage thing again. And so she like quickly goes into, stalker mode and she's moving in that direction. And then she goes through an open door. Tommy's right behind it and obviously kicks it into her and it basically almost knocks it. She should have died in this encounter, but suddenly, Yara is there. How the shit did Yara get there? I mean, I guess if all of Tommy's attention was gonna be on the two of them, Manny and Abby, down in the street, and she came out and she's observing and unnoticed, I mean, that would have been the oh my gosh. This is amazing, amazing. And Abby is so lucky because she was not gonna win this fight with Tommy until suddenly it looked like Yara stabs him in the stomach. I don't recall him having an injury like that back at the theater when we finally saw that Tommy was there and whatnot. Was it back at the theater? No, it was at the aquarium. So he's gonna go to the aquarium after this. So he falls off into the water and I'm hoping we're gonna see Jesse come and rescue him. Well, we probably wouldn't because we'll be doing this from Abby's perspective. Oh, whatever, okay. Either way, sure is lucky that Yara was there. Yeah, so Yara asks, man, who was that? And obviously Abby has figured out who it was. I mean, I would hope that she would remember his face, but she goes, doesn't matter, let's go. Does she know he's not dead? I mean, so the only thing I can think is, okay, this guy was here to kill you guys, and you've shoved him off into the water. He's still alive. He is still going to be a huge danger. Did she know who he was? Because she says it doesn't matter. Seems like she didn't recognize who he was. It's like weird because this could go either way. Either she recognized who he was and doesn't want Yara to worry. Don't worry about it. But then that means, what about all your friends who are still alive? Aren't you worried that this guy's on the loose? How about go to shore and kill him? How about look down? Which direction does he swim? You're in a very advantageous position here. He's going to pop up at some point. You should shoot him then. But I guess if you don't know who he is, what, you're just gonna leave the guy who was so viciously attacking all you guys? I think that's the only thing I can think that makes sense here, is that she did not recognize that this was Tommy. And she's just like, it doesn't matter who he is. We're not involved. He's here to kill WLFs and I've obviously betrayed the WLFs. I wanna get out of here. But this is our first instance of Abby. We see her not going to get revenge for him killing Manny. So Manny was not somebody who she loved enough that seeing him getting killed would prompt her to want revenge. I don't think it even looked like it crossed her mind that that's what she would want. Anyway, they steal a boat and now they're going to the island. I have to appreciate whoever it was that said, when they're on this boat and they are speeding through large swells, it is not a comfortable ride. Like, this rhythm of going up and then dropping is so uncomfortable. Anyway, I like that. I don't get out on a boat much, but the few times that I have been and we've experienced this, it's miserable. What the heck? The Space Needle is like on the island. I think that's the Space Needle. It looks like it. I'm pretty sure the Space Needle is in a park in the middle of the city, like a small park. Whatever. This whole thing is, it's its own universe anyway, because the Ferris wheel is right next to the aquarium, which in real life it's not. It's on a whole different pier, but okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. Space Needle is on an island now. They land on the island, they find Lev's boat, and Yara explains that nobody uses this corner of the island. So I guess that's why Lev would have gone right to this spot. But their target is on the other side of the island. And Yara says, don't worry, we can take like some back roads that nobody is using. And she starts asking about, are you sure the attack is happening tonight? Yes. And then she asks, why is he attacking? What's up with him? And Abby explains that he wants the fighting to stop. And Yara goes, at what cost? And she goes, at any cost at this point. The whole attacking an island and you're going to be on foot, it just doesn't seem super smart. It does seem a little convenient that in this world they have all of this military equipment, but no long-range artillery. I mean, you could wipe out most people on this island with enough long-range artillery, and they don't have any. Like, just grind the whole thing to dust from a distance. You've risked fewer of your guys, you take out the entire island, and then you're fine. There are no rocket launchers or grenade launchers or anything. I mean, even just bringing in a Gatling gun and mounting it on a truck would make a huge difference. Okay, maybe you can't bring the truck over there, but what, they don't have large boats in this? No, I don't buy that. You're gonna go in on foot with guns instead of having, I mean, where is the long-range artillery? Where is it? They come across the bodies of some WLFs that were executed by the Scars, and Yara's like, I'm sorry, I know you knew these guys. They were obviously there for recon and never made it back, I guess. But then Yara asks, why are you helping us? And Abby explains, you guys don't deserve this, and I needed to. She needed to help them. Very self-aware of Abby. There's a big town called Haven, and as they're passing, that's when we hear the siren go off or the horn blow that we heard in the show that I found kind of funny. But they decide to cut through a logging village and they come across a sculpture cut into a tree of the prophet, and Yara stops to pray. She says, may she guide us, and then you hear Abby go, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light. And she says that her dad used to tell her that, but she definitely would have heard it also from just the Fireflies in general, because I seem to recall this was something that the Fireflies said in the show. They made a point to have this in some of the graffiti, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light, and that was when they would have the firefly symbol. You know, you get the idea. Seems to me like Abby has changed her mind about the idea of joining the Fireflies. Like, the Fireflies were looking for the light. She sees the truth in the philosophy, but are the Fireflies really following that truth? Are they truly seeking to preserve light and innocence and goodness, or are they just telling you to go kill whoever you need to? Which is basically what everything up to this point has said. But I guess it falls into the pattern of like these groups that have ideas are also hypocrites, because the Scars obviously have some truth behind what they're doing as well, and yet they're also these horrific, vicious killers. So these are all not nice people. Like, just get away from all of them. Go start a farm out in the middle of nowhere and just... You know who was the smartest out of everybody was Bill. And he's still out there. He's still alive somewhere. Oh my gosh, that'd be fantastic if it turns out he's still alive and we get to see him. Okay, so Yara is following Abby through this village as they're trying to sneak through, but Abby is going around just killing people. And Yara's just fine with this. I mean, these are her people. These would be people that she knows, and she's just okay with it. I mean, they know who she is. Somebody at one point shouts, "You're gonna pay for this, Yara." And she's also following Abby, who is swimming through, like, under buildings and climbing up into buildings and climbing upstairs. And like, Yara just had her arm amputated like maybe 7 or 8 hours earlier. It's getting hard to ignore that.
I'm invincible! You're a loony.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like, Yara, you do deserve to die. I mean, she's part of this. I do hope that she brings it up to Abby, like, I'm not happy that we're killing all these guys. At some point, I would have wanted her to say, don't, you know, these are my guys. And then they try to find a way to sneak out. Like, that is the way, whatever. Yeah, I really don't see why they didn't go around this village. I think if I wanted to make it like they have to go through this village, I would have had something in the geography that would have made it impossible for them to go around. Maybe there's a cliff or some sort of a big rock formation or something that like we have to cut through. But maybe in the game you can go around. Just what the only way to get past to the other side of this village is to go through it. You literally can't go around. I find it hard to believe that Yara would be okay with going through this village and slaughtering her own people. I mean, some of these people could be her cousins, but she has nothing to say about this. When Abby even asks her, "You doing okay?" She goes, "Just a little winded." Considering Yara innocent now has kind of gone out the window. There was no reason to kill all of these people when you could have gone around them, and yet you chose to go through this village and kill these people. And expose yourself. It's just stupid. It was a stupid choice. I gotta hope that this was an option and that my player was just an idiot. So Abby now is an advocate for all children, except for Mel's and Owen's child. But, well, actually, no, she did make that choice at the end that, no, she's not going to go to Santa Barbara because that's what's best. Anyway, well, it's not really clear if that's why she's doing it, but she seems to be thinking this way now, which is good. But she asks Yara what's going to happen with all those kids that were in the village because they were taking them somewhere. And Yara explains, well, we have these shelters that they can go to, and if things get really bad, then they'll get off the island. And Abby goes, good. So that's where we get that bit of information from. We do see that Isaac is now approaching the island. You can see his ships out in the bay or whatever that area heading towards somewhere next to Haven, but not exactly towards Haven. Doesn't matter. Either way, Isaac's attack is starting and Abby's going, "Isaac, what the hell are you doing?" And I'm asking myself the same question. Isaac, what the hell are you doing? It just does not really seem all that smart strategically at this point when your guys are being attacked back in Seattle and they're not doing well. You're down supposedly one of your best warriors, and her team, they're all AWOL at this point, I think, right? Or dead, or whatever. But sure, let's go and fight in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy in their territory, where they have the greatest advantage. It's so stupid. Isaac is not a good leader, and nobody should be going along with what his plan is. I said this before in the show about, what was her name? It was Kathleen or Catherine or something. I can't remember what the name of the town was that they were in, but they were in this town and it was that lady. And she just seemed so obviously incompetent that I didn't believe anybody would be following her. And I said that I think somebody who is less competent but more confident would actually dethrone her. They would throw her over because it wouldn't take much to lead people in opposition to her leadership. Or with Isaac, I think at least he's more intimidating and he does seem to have some mental control over everybody, but there would be a breaking point, and I think your own guys losing so badly would be that breaking point. If you see that your leader's leadership is failing, that's when people typically go, not anymore. And this is an obvious suicide mission, especially when you are so disadvantaged, but whatever. I mean, I don't really care about all these people. They can all die, and I'm just like, whatever, just go die. Okay, it definitely was the Space Needle. I've only been to Seattle once. It was when I was much younger, and I recall it's in the middle of the city. It's in a park in the middle of the city. But I'm not seeing any evidence of city here. It's like all forest and hills and whatever. It's an imaginary world. Yeah, there is a lot of killing. So they get to where the farmland is and Yara's like, oh, my house is like just on the other side basically of there. And in the cut version, they get through it. But I look at the uncut version and holy crap, Abby is just killing everybody and there's no reaction from Yara, which is just weird to me, especially in a small community like this. You would be very close with everybody in the vicinity, especially of your home. So anyway, let's just keep going. They get to the house and it doesn't look good. Apparently what happened is Lev was unable to convince their mom to come away with them and she just was yelling, and so Lev pushed her when she was attacking and then she hit her head and she died. What was most shocking to me in this moment here was that, again, Yara did not seem to be all that affected by the death of their mother. She just goes over to Lev and is like, it's okay, it was self-defense, let's get out of here. And everybody just kind of, okay, and they pack up and go. It seems like Yara is conveniently unaffected by all of the killing and then the death of her mother. So the plan is to cut through another town, where I'm sure Abby's going to do a lot of killing, and then avoid the main roads. I mean, how about just avoid the towns too? Just go, whatever. I'm getting kind of annoyed at this. They can't go back for their boat because it sounds like they're shooting off in that direction. And the new plan is we're going to go to Haven because there's a lot of boats there. Yeah, let's go to the most populated area. Oh, why not circle around to where the boat... Like, you don't think that anybody's going to be over in Haven? I'm sorry, this is dumb. The chances of somebody being back by where there are 2 boats out in the middle of nowhere and that somebody's gonna be standing guard, oh, there's gonna be a WLF standing guard there over those 2 boats. They would have a better chance at going back there, killing whoever's standing guard, taking the boats and going. This is so, oh, this is annoying me. It feels a lot like we need to get Abby over towards Haven because that is where Isaac is going to be. And we're gonna have a big showdown with Isaac, but it's not the smart thing to do. So what you wanna do in a story is if you need to have a showdown happen like that, where it's, oh, we gotta have characters meet each other like they need to, we need to cancel out all reasons to go in other directions. It has to be convincing. We really have no choice. That is the best direction to go. I don't know, maybe they'll meet up back in Seattle. No, here's prediction. We're going to go over to Haven. Abby's going to be killing a bunch of WLFs. Now they're going to be coming after her. We're going to have a showdown with Isaac, and then they're going to miraculously get off the island somehow. That's what's going to happen. I guarantee it. Oh my gosh, it's annoying me so bad. I gotta let this go. At one point, Lev is asking, how come if Mom's strength or faith was so strong, whatever, why did she die? And that's when Yara explains, our faith doesn't make us immortal, whatever. Then they get into this building and they're hiding from some WLFs. So the WLFs are now showing up. I think it's pretty obvious there's going to be some Abby killing WLFs. And Lev is talking about how we're leaving so many people here behind, and Yara goes, we can't help them. If you care so much about them, I mean, everybody's being killed, oh, whatever. If you care so much about not leaving them behind, how come you're okay with killing them? Well, I guess Yara isn't the one who said, oh no, what if we leave them all behind? That was Lev. So it's just whatever. Just moving on. Okay, so what happens here? So they do come across a WLF who, he jumps out at Yara and apparently stabs her and she goes down, but then Abby comes in to fight him and he recognizes her, so they know each other. I am glad though that she doesn't kill him. Like, if she just starts killing WLFs that she knows, that would be, I mean, I guess it would be no less believable than Yara killing people that she knows or standing there while Abby does it for her. But yeah, so Abby disarms him and then disables him. He's unconscious, but Yara is dead, or seemingly dead, and she's got to rip Lev away and you gotta leave her, you know, she's gone. And that's when they get surrounded by a bunch of WLFs and Isaac shows up. Abby immediately surrenders, puts down her pistol, and Isaac gives the signal to his guys, like, lower your weapons, we're not gonna shoot her, but he's going, what is that behind you? And Abby goes, he saved my life, he's just a kid, don't do this. And Isaac is like, move out of the way, we'll deal with you when we get home. But Abby is insisting she's not moving. Isaac raises the pistol again and says, you have 3 seconds to step away from that scar. And Abby's like, I'm not moving. Are you really gonna shoot me? And he gets to 1, 2, and then he seems to lower his pistol, but then he's like, nah, doing this. And just as he lifts it up, but before he gets to 3, suddenly Isaac gets shot and killed, or at least shot, he's gone. It was Yara.
The Black Knight always triumphs!
Yara was awake right there at the feet of the WLFs. They didn't hear her moving or anything. And then Abby immediately grabs Lev and tears off with Lev while the WLFs are shooting down at their own feet at Yara.
All right, we call it a draw.
And then they lift their their rifles up, they're shooting at Abby, and Abby's running off with Lev, and they go into a building, and it's like, not one person got in a shot. This is very convenient survival. This feels kind of cheap. This should have been basically the climax of Abby's story, at least I think. No, maybe it's when she's fighting with Ellie, because that's definitely gonna happen in the theater. This is a big moment for her, and we're gonna get her out of it so conveniently. I don't even know how I would have fixed this. Maybe Isaac wouldn't have as many guards with him or something. And maybe a bunch of scars would come in and start fighting them, and that's drawing the fire of the other guys. And in the chaos, you also have Yara shoots. I don't know, but they got away.
I'm not fucking moving.
No!
What the fuck? You missed! How could you miss? He was 3 feet in front of you!
Whatever. Okay. I cannot fathom how so many people would have thought this is a good idea, like in the production team, like, oh yeah, let's do this. So they run into this building and Abby barricades the door. And remember, a team of WLFs that just witnessed Abby killing their leader are right there. There was at least 4 of them. So she goes in, blockades the door. They are still trying to get in through there. Then she goes through another door, blockades that door, and now they're gonna pause and have a little conversation. What? I mean, it's realistic that you would have Lev going through extreme trauma, but why did everybody stop trying to get into the building at this point? Why did Abby think it's okay to stop and pause and have this conversation? But Lev goes, oh my gosh, she's really dead. And then throws an accusation at Abby. Those were your people. And Abby goes, those were my people. We need to get out of here now. And we're not going to let anybody get in our way. And so they're like, okay, let's all go. Oh. During high intensity moments like this, seconds draw out like years. And this is one of those situations where it really felt like we have paused the attack on Abby so that they can have this conversation. In writing, when I've got an author who has an action sequence and they've cut out a lot to make it seem faster, I have to remind them this is a high intensity moment. Most readers, in fact, just about all readers, are going to read through this section faster than they do other segments. So cutting out detail is just going to make it feel like it whips by too fast. But the opposite is also true. If you're adding too many details, and this happens a lot where it seems like every little moment in a fight is written out in extreme detail, and I have to say, this is reading like slow motion. Like you've written it to be in slow motion, and typically the answer I get is, well, I kind of wanted it to feel that way. And I go, yeah, but this is a high intensity moment, and all this detail is slowing down the action so much that if there's not important information about maybe the psychological effects of what's going on exactly, or the imagery is supposed to be extremely important, if that's non-existent, you are just detailing the fight choreography, you don't want to do that because it does read like you want us to stop and drag through this moment. Here, this is just a major issue with pausing, and the WLFs decided to stop attacking. I mean, I don't hear gunshots anymore. And you can say, oh, well, she went through the second door. You'd still hear them. I almost want to just stop here and then do the rest, but it looks like I've got about 2 hours left in this game. And this is the uncut version I'm watching right now. Whatever. Oh my gosh. And we are raiding the building. So now we're going to go through the building and look for stuff. Ugh. So the WLFs barricade the entrance and then sweep the building, and Abby and Lev managed to get out of there. And I counted, it was hard to count all of them, but at least 10, I thought 13 kills. These are the most incompetent soldiers I've ever seen. How do 13 guys lose to 1? And I didn't see Lev helping that much, maybe twice. And there were plenty of convenient moments. I mean, I know that this is gameplay, so you would have to set the difficulty level, but this person must have had it at difficulty super easy, because there were at least 3 times where Abby basically kills somebody who's just standing there waiting to die. This is definitely game fantasy stuff, because it's so unrealistic, it's ridiculous. But I can give it that. If you were going to do this in the show, you would definitely have to be like, okay, there's only maybe 4 or 5 soldiers that are sweeping the building. I could see like 4 maybe. 13? 10? No. You're toast. You're toast. Unless you have like a grenade or something, which she didn't have and didn't use. At this point, I've lost my investment in their journey. I mean, it's like, okay, let's get off the island. I think that it may have been a better idea to put Abby's confrontation with Isaac at the final moment before escaping the island, because I really I'm going, okay, so it's just going to be a bunch of killing and zombies. There's no emotional investment in investment, but emotional tension. I'm not anticipating that there's going to be unless Jesse no, Jesse won't be here. He's with Ellie or Tommy. He's with Tommy and then going to go get Ellie. Right now, you've got Owen and what's the name? Mel dying. Anyway, I just think the one thing that interested me most about this scenario here other than we go get Lev. It was then, okay, Abby is going to have to confront the WLFs head on and Isaac. And that has already come and gone. I think it would have been better if she's killed a bunch of WLFs and then Isaac is like, you're gone. Like, I know you've been killing WLFs, and that's when the confrontation is about to happen, but she manages to take him out. But I don't know. I mean, setting a physical goal is important, but there also needs to be sort of an emotional or psychological tension about it as well. At this point, these two people, we just want them to survive. And I don't feel like that's enough for me. Not in the situation that they're in at this point. At this point, I just want to hurry up and get to the next psychological or emotional beat. And I know it's going to be a while because Lev just said, we have to get to the boats. It's on the other side of that big burning town. So now we got to run through the big burning town. Okay. So we're sneaking through a battle zone, and at one point, one of the WLFs goes, she's with the Scars, kill her. And how did they know? Didn't she just kill everybody that was with Isaac, and aren't those the only guys who know that did she leave anybody alive? I don't think she left anybody alive except for that one guy, but he seemed pretty incapacitated. Like, his arm was broke, and she pistol whipped him. I think it was pistol whip, yeah. I just don't believe that they would know. Whatever, I don't care. They get on a horse, now they're gonna take a horse. I feel like this moment was supposed to be super, super epic, and maybe it was for people who are really invested because they're playing the game, but I'm not. All I can think is, why are you running through this village that's on fire when you could be going around it to get to the boats? I mean, you are literally galloping into the fray. And also you got people who jump out at Abby and go, Abby, you're a traitor. And I'm going, how did they know? Oh, I guess they could have radioed. So somebody in Isaac's group, after discovering that Abby was a traitor, radioed to everybody else, Abby is a traitor, kill her or something, I guess. But anyway, everybody's killing everybody, and they're riding this horse through this burning village, and the music is very dramatic, and a building falls down almost on top of them, and they lose the horse. The only way to fix this moment is to not have this scene happen where it's happening, is to put Isaac on the docks where they're gonna go for the boats. That's where it should be. Like, he's standing there coordinating everybody with radios, and that could be how he finds out. Like, maybe somebody, not Isaac, is the first one to confront her, and that sets off a chain reaction of all these people coming after her. And then when she gets there, he's there. I think that might be what I would do to eliminate this problem. And then I also wouldn't have her go through the town. I would have her and Lev be smart and go around it. But no, we're gonna get on a horse and we're gonna ride right through the main conflict, through the center of conflict. Again, I have to wonder if this is optional. Is there a way around this village? I almost wish that the person who is playing the game that I'm watching had done that, if that's an option. If that's an option, that would have been the smart thing to do. I just don't believe that anybody would go through or towards the epicenter of conflict and go, yeah, that's our best way out of here, when there's a way around. And again, if there's no way around, like there's something that's stopping them from going around, that should have been a discussion. Because right now, Abby looks like a moron. It should have been, let's go around that to get to the boats, which I don't know why they're going to the boats anyway. Ugh! There's just too many problems in how smart she's appearing, because she doesn't appear to be very smart here. But the point I was making was, if you wanted to make it so you absolutely have to go through a certain area like this, then you have to have your character, who should have made the smart decision going around, bring that up. Let's go around. And then the other character can go, we can't because of blah, blah, blah. And there's some really good reason that makes it go, oh, that would definitely not work. Like, it's literally impossible to go around. So our only choice is to go through. You can't have your characters act dumb in order for plot to happen, because it feels cheap. At one point, they end up on the more Seraphite side of the line, and you can hear them shouting at Lev, saying, Lily, you're a traitor. You shouldn't have come back. We're gonna kill you. You brought the wolves to us, stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, I highly doubt that in the face of the enemy, which is an entire army of WLFs, you would even think twice about Lev. I mean, whatever. Oh, then you overhear one of them saying, quick, get to the docks, and like, don't let anyone off the island. And then Lev goes, we just gotta go over this hill. That's where the docks are. Didn't you just hear that they are going to guard? Like, this is stretching beyond believability. And it's happening far too many times. at this point that I can just say, oh, I can just forget about it. I literally cannot critique this anymore because even one change is not enough to fix this. You would have to change so much in order to make this work, but whatever. We get to the boss fight, which is, so Abby and Lev get separated at one point, and Lev's outside of the building. Anyway, gets jumped by this huge guy with what looks like a pickaxe again. So we're again against a giant person with a pickaxe, and Abby comes out there and is fighting with pickaxe guy. It goes on for a really long time. At one point, she picks up a sickle and it goes right through his face. So he has basically a Glasgow smile that's open, like it's an open wound. And the guy still keeps going. Like, this is very tropey. It is the villain that won't die no matter how many times you shoot him kind of thing. Oh my gosh. She eventually does beat him, but I was half expecting that she would think he's dead and then get up and then he would jump out after her. Oh boy. They definitely did that just for the dramatic effect, going through the face like that. Nobody would be able to keep fighting after that. You know how many blood vessels are in your mouth? Like, you would be fainting so quickly. But, oh my gosh. At the very least, he would run away. We get to the docks, and luckily it's low tide, and everybody's fighting up on top of the docks, and they're down by the water, which is where the boats would be. So if you're trying to stop people from getting to the boats, you should be on the shore, but whatever. They manage to find a boat without being noticed, and Abby rows them off to the aquarium, where we know what's gonna happen. They get into the aquarium, the dog is dead, they find the bodies of Mel and Owen, and Abby immediately, like, walks in, there's Mel, but her eyes go right over to Owen. I mean, obviously, I guess because she, was in love with him or whatever. She pukes and she's really upset, and then Lev comes over picking up the map that Ellie would have dropped, the one that she was telling the others, like, hey, point. And this map was the one that Jesse and Dina made when they were trying to figure out where Tommy is, because the mission was go and get Tommy, and they figured he must be at the aquarium. And for some reason, they circled, here's us, and there's the aquarium, and then they drew a squiggly line to the aquarium. It's a good thing that they did that thing that most people don't usually do to maps. I could definitely let this one go if there weren't so many other things that were bugging me, other contrivances and conveniences in the story. This does seem silly. I mean, typically, if you're like, okay, we're here and we need to get to there, you don't go, this is where we are, and here we'll go like this. You kind of just go, well, here we are, and there we're going, and you just go. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that, but whatever. It sure is a good thing that there was, a circle right around the hotel, or not the hotel, the theater. Like, this is where we are. I guess that explains how Abby found them without tracking them, because that bugged me back before. I was like, how the hell did she find the theater if she wasn't following right behind Ellie and Tommy and those guys? How the heck did she get there? But okay, anyway, we're off to the theater. And I mean, it does kind of seem like the whole, it's just us, we're just gonna survive. Like, that's the whole point, we're just gonna go and survive. I guess that's gone, that's out the window now. So, okay. Again, for some reason, everybody at the theater decided it was a good idea to leave lights on everywhere so that everybody outside could see them. I mean, that's not what got them caught, it was that map, but still feels dumb. Oh dang, so she gets down into the lobby where she finds Tommy and holds him up at gunpoint, and he surrenders immediately, and he's like, you gonna kill me like a coward? And she kicks him down to the ground. It's kind of similar to what she did to Joel, except it's just with a kick instead of a shotgun. And she's holding her gun on him and going, you effing people. And then that's when Jesse and Ellie come through the door. She kills Jesse, and it's weird that we just there's no Lev in this. So from Ellie's perspective, she didn't notice Lev just standing right there. This is one of those things where in a mystery, it's like withholding one of the things that is there, or a clue that is there, and then revealing it later and saying, here's that thing that you definitely would have noticed, but we decided the reader shouldn't know about it until now. I don't know why it would make a huge difference to see that there's another person in this room back when we were with Ellie. But the scene plays out just as it did before. And then we get the reveal of, well, in the show, we heard a gunshot. In the game, we heard nothing. It just blacks out on Abby going, we let you live and you wasted it, and then it blacks out. But in the show, we had, I let you live and you wasted it, and then we hear a gunshot and see Ellie going, no, no, no. And it turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is Abby, as soon as she takes her gun off of Tommy, Of course, he's going to pounce on her right there, and he does. And that's where the gunshot is, because the gun goes off while they're struggling for the gun. But then Lev shoots Tommy, and then Abby shoots Tommy in the head. So he's gone now too. So goodbye, I guess. It's weird because at this point, there's been so much killing. Like, Abby has done so much freaking killing. I really don't care if she dies. And I didn't care about Ellie and her dying, and at this point I don't care about her either still, so it's like, I just want them all to die. Like, I literally do not care about what happens to either of them. There's nothing to look forward to in this story, except, I don't know, what does Lev want now at this point? To go and find a safe place to live? I thought that's what it was going to be, but then you had Abby going, let's go get him, and Lev being like, I'm right on board with you. So it's weird. But anyway, Ellie goes taken off, and then Abby runs after her. Just thinking about Abby's line there when she says, you killed my friends, we let you live and you wasted it. It feels like this is a line that was not exactly a natural thing to say for this character, but we're gonna have her say it here. So it'll be really profound when she says it, like it means something. It's definitely a line that is there for Ellie's benefit and doesn't exactly flow from what I could see going on in Abby's head at this moment. She just saw the love of her life apparently get killed and all of her friends killed. She just saved Lev and got through the entire Scar Island thing and killed Isaac or whatever. I never really got the impression that letting Ellie and Tommy live was something that she decided to do, that it was more like Owen convinced the others not to kill them, and then she just wanted to be done. Like, I've killed Joel, let's go, we're done. It really does feel like this is a line that was stuck there for dramatic effect, because it really means something to Ellie to hear those words. But for Abby, I'm really struggling to see that this is a thing that she would think and say, like that she would see Ellie and go, you're the person who was with Joel, who her association with Joel is, I killed him and he deserved to die, and I just went and killed a whole bunch of other people. Why would she say anything at all? Just kill her and kill Tommy. I mean, it really is, she shouldn't be shocked that Ellie is there because she's already seen Tommy, and she came in here ready to kill Tommy. Like, Tommy, you're gonna die. The one thing I can think that might be having an effect on her that's making her say this is that the new information here with Ellie is that Ellie is the one that her own dad was going to kill. Okay, I guess I could buy this. It's a lot. Like, she's processing stuff like lightning speed here. So, okay, this is the girl that my dad was going to kill, but Joel killed my dad to save her. And so we let her live, even though saving her is the reason my dad died at Joel's hands. So she wasted my dad's death, I guess? I mean, there was no processing time there at all. It feels very unnatural that this line would come out at this moment, but it does technically make sense that after learning that Ellie is the one that her dad was going to kill, and then he died because he was going to kill her and Joel said no and killed him, it seems to me that this would take a little time for her to process this, and that this line coming out here, it's okay though. We need the story to hurry up. So far, in the uncut version, there's like an hour and a half left in this story. So I guess we gotta get, what the hell else is gonna happen? All right, let's keep going. I really want this fight to be over. But so Abby goes chasing after Ellie, who has run off, and she does the stupid thing that she was gonna do earlier when they were approaching Tommy as the unknown sniper, and she opens this big old loud heavy door, and then Ellie does the stupid thing and announces herself before attacking, sort of like, haha, attack, surprise attack. This is definitely, it feels like a Hollywoodized dramatic moment, like we are doing everything to make this seem as dramatic as possible, and it's not sitting well. The most dramatic moments in writing tend to be the ones that would happen so very naturally, and yet we are invested enough in the story that it doesn't require Hollywoodization in order for it to feel dramatic. I should be feeling like, oh no, these two people are fighting. Maybe I don't want them to fight, or maybe I want Abby to lose, or maybe I want Ellie to lose. I don't care about any of them. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I was the only one who got to this fight, and I'm just going, just hurry up. Yeah, there is literally no reason why this fight would ever happen like this. Abby is disarmed by Ellie, who smacks her hands as she is announcing herself and loses the weapon. Then Ellie gets it, and now she's got the pistol, and Abby is like stalking her in this. This is definitely for the benefit of a game player. Definitely from a viewer's perspective, from somebody who's watching this going, how would this be a good TV show? It's completely ridiculous. It feels ridiculous. Yeah, Abby manages to sneak up on Ellie, and they're wrestling, and they end up on top of some brittle wood that falls apart. They fall through, and now suddenly Ellie has a shotgun. How did I miss that she had a shotgun on her? Oh wait, she had packed up her backpack. Was she still wearing it? I don't care. I really don't care. Either way, Abby would be absolute toast at this point. I thought it was really funny. I happened to notice that at one point while they're fighting, so Ellie has the shotgun and Abby is just like running around trying to find something. She's picking up bottles and whatnot, and their little sign pops up and says, "Sprinting is loud and may reveal your position to enemies." And Ellie's behaving in ways that are not Ellie-like either. If she is stalking Abby, she wouldn't be announcing herself all the time either. It's like they've turned Ellie into a stormtrooper. I mean, Abby's hiding. Ellie doesn't know where she is somehow. And she's going, "Is that you, Abby? Are you over there?" Like, don't have your characters acting out of character just so it's convenient that this fight seems to be happening the way that it's happening. Oh my gosh. Don't have your characters act out of character just for drama. How much scarier would it have been if you were in Abby's shoes and Ellie is behaving like Ellie? She would not announce herself. She is being quiet. She is waiting for Abby to make a mistake and then she can go after her. And Ellie falls for the old bottle trick. She's not an infected. If I heard a bottle shatter, the first thing that I would think is somebody threw that to draw my attention that way. Oh my gosh, they end up in more wrestling and fighting. It's really boring. At one time, Abby gets stabbed in the thigh and then she gets shot in the shoulder and they still end up wrestling and Ellie's definitely losing. And then Dina comes charging in. She's got a knife. Abby is losing to her, but then Lev shows up and takes out Dina. Well, shoots her in the back. I mean, shoulder, whatever. She's shot now. And then Abby now has Dina by the throat with a knife. And Ellie goes, "Don't, she's pregnant." And Abby's like, "Good." And that's when Lev goes, "Abby, like, don't kill her, she's pregnant." What about all the scars that she just killed? Who were your friend? You were okay with her killing them, and they weren't fighting you. This feels very forced. Oh yeah, and Abby slams Dina's face into the concrete several times. Like, even just one of those would definitely kill her. She's already dead. I mean, if she's not dead from being shot and now it's like, oh, well, you're gonna get an infection from that. She's gonna be dead from a concussion or from her skull being split open. I mean, have you seen how big Abby's arms are? She is freaking strong. Dina's dead. She better be dead. Okay, so Abby stands up and decides to let Ellie live, and Dina, if she lives through this, it's not really believable. But she stands up and says something to the effect of, "I better not ever see you again," and then leaves with Lev. And my gosh, there's still an hour and a half left in this, and now it looks like we're on a farm with Ellie. But I'm pausing here. Or stopping. I need a break. I've been filming for 5 hours now. I need a break before I do the rest of this. I need to get some food at least. There was way too many contrivances in this particular section. I was actually really on board with all the cool stuff that was going on in the beginning. Like, I was appreciating some of this storytelling, and then it just got ridiculous. And then we get to this moment, and I don't believe that Abby, who had no, I don't believe that Lev, who had no problem with Abby killing all of those Seraphites, would just be like, "Oh no, don't kill this stranger who killed the two people who rescued me and Yara." Oh my gosh, this is so contrived. This is exhausting. I'm so tired. I know I keep saying it, but at a certain point, when you see too many contrivances, too many plot holes, too many things that just don't work in a story, you can tolerate them up to a certain point. And then there comes a time when you go, all right, it's ridiculous. I'm at the stage now where I would say this story has so many problems in it that in order to make it work, I don't think you can just make a couple little tweaks here and there. There need to be some major changes. And the fact that I have lost all interest in seeing these characters survive, it's sad to say, but it's what am I hoping for at this point? For Lev and Abby to go off to Santa Barbara? Are they even gonna, they can't even do that now. They don't have the boat. So where are they gonna go? And for I don't even care. I mean, these are all characters who've done so many horrible things that I literally do not care if they go on. And it's almost funny because it's like at this point, if I was reading this as a book, I would say, this is where I stop reading. I'm not interested in seeing where it goes. It doesn't matter where it goes. I don't care where it goes. So anyway, I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna go get myself some food and refresh and fluff my hair. I'm sure it's all flat, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll come back and film part 8, and that's it. Hope to see you around for that, but please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It is a free way to support this channel and help boost this video in the algorithm. Otherwise, if you have the means and you're feeling generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. Remember that you can become a subscriber or you can leave a one-time tip, and I really do appreciate any help there. That's it. Be good to yourself.